Welcome to the Cookbook, 1827 North Pearl Street. We're here with Tony for Tony's Tangent, and joining us today is Damon Jones. Welcome.
Hello, what's going on? What's up, Tony? What's going on? Got a special guest with us today. I've been trying to get a former Jag in the house. Today I have him. Damon Jones is definitely in the house right now. And what I want to ask him is, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you played in the league, what you have going on today, and some of the things you're involved in, and give us a little background information about you.
Okay, yeah. I grew up in Chicago, Evanston, Illinois, suburb of Chicago, where Northwestern is. They got a win yesterday against Iowa. Shout out to
Okay, they 2-0.
Yeah, they are. They got some wins. Got drafted here in '97 by the Jaguars. Played 5 seasons with the Jaguars.
Okay.
Was fortunate enough to go to the playoffs every year except that last 2 years, 2000 and 2001. We were decimated by some injuries. I was on the '99 team that lost to Tennessee 3 times. Yeah, that's a tough one. Been in Jacksonville ever since. I have a son, he's 21, he'll be 22 actually this month. Yeah, he'll be 22 years old. He's studying at South Carolina State.
Orangeburg.
Yeah. He's doing it remotely now, obviously, with this COVID stuff.
Right.
Member of Omega Psi Phi Life member.
We see. I know you threw it up a couple times.
In the house. And that's, other than that, I'm just, living good, man, having a good time with life.
It's funny you bring up Chicago because I went to a little school in Deerfield, Illinois called Trinity. And I played football up there for 1 year.
Is that a community college?
It's 4 year
college? Okay.
It's 4 year
I
college.
think I know what you're talking about. I think I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
and the color's purple and something? Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
yeah, we used to go up and party all the time at Northwestern up in Evanston.
Yeah,
so when you said that brought up a lot of memories though.
Oh yeah,
So,
Evanston definitely got some party spot.
plus Chi-Town, I got a lot of family up there, so I'm very familiar with Harvey, 155th Street, the whole nine. Used to be Robert Taylor Homes. My aunt used to live there before they tore them down. So
Yeah, that's all.
Chi-Town definitely in the
Big
house.
shout out, yeah. Hopefully the Bears get a win today.
Right, they play the Saints.
Yeah, they do. They definitely do.
Speaking of the Jaguars,
Oh man, they on a bye week. We gonna dog them today. We should give them a win today because they are off today. But let's get into it.
what's your thoughts on Gardner Minshew? Is he the future, or do you feel like you need to see a little bit more before they make a decision what they want to do with the quarterback situation?
To be honest with you, I don't see him as a future or a franchise quarterback. I think he is what they've done in all other picks. They kind of haven't found that guy. It's ironic because I announced that pick for the Jaguars when they picked Gardner Minshew for the Jaguars. We did it at the pool. And I like him. I think he's a good player. He's a good player. But I've watched some of the coaches, copies this year, and he's missing open guys. And people say, well, the offensive line is not doing their job. No, it's not. He's getting happy feet. And that's what happens when you get happy feet is the ball sails on you. It either sails or you get a low ball. And that's why he's so inaccurate. And I wouldn't say he's inaccurate, but he completes about 65% of his passes. For the Jaguars to be successful, they're going to have a quarterback at 70, 75%. We're talking about running the football with Robinson. Obviously, Armstead is not going to come back. Robinson's done a great job for the Jaguars. I think he was a guy that they felt, they can get the same production from Leonard Fournette as they did from Robinson and maybe even more. So when you look at that move in the offseason, did I agree with it totally? No. I thought Leonard, by the way he conducted himself last season, I thought he had earned his right to at least play for that contract here with the Jaguars. But if you're not doing, I guess, what, even Coughlin was gone at this point now, what I'm saying? So you can't blame it on Coughlin and his attitude. If he wasn't performing or doing or being a good teammate or whatever, obviously the Jaguars felt like, it was time to move on from him. You know, it had to be something. I think something else that the Jaguars just felt like, you know, when you look at the business side, we can play this Robinson kid and get off the hook for $4 million or whatever they were. I think $4 or $5 million for what it was for Fournette, and we get the same production. If you're a business owner, you know what I mean. I'm going to get the same production for less cost. I'm going to do with that, and that's just a smart business move.
So let me ask you this question: when you look at Lamar, who's been in the league for 2 or 3 years, you look at Pat Mahomes, you look at Josh Allen up there in Buffalo. The infrastructure was already set up for them to be successful, and they have good coaching. So I'll give them that. But in his defense, because of the infrastructure the way it is in Jacksonville, and the fact that they didn't commit to one of those receivers, and this year's draft was deep in receivers, can we give him an out, or still we don't feel like he's on the level of those guys, and so we still want to see?
No.
Do we need to go in a different direction?
I don't think you can blame it on the receivers. I think you've got a Pro Bowler in charge.
Okay.
They did draft Chenault, who's been versatile, and he makes plays for him. I don't think he's made a lot of plays for him down the field. Mm-hmm. But I look at Conway, a guy who the Jaguars have over history had a hard time.
So he has enough around him. What you're saying?
Well, I mean, I think that as a quarterback, you look at some of these other quarterbacks, they don't have all the things. I mean, everybody says Aaron Rodgers needed to get a receiver, and they draft a quarterback. He's got the same guys. I mean, Devontae Adams been out of the lineup to get him back now, but he's making so. You got to make the throws, and I've watched the coaches copy. He's not making the throws that need to be made. Mm-hmm. Rather, he needs to make those third and fourth throws. Those are the throws. I mean, converting first and 10, getting a hitch route. That's good. That does make your completion percentage go high. But when you miss the third and four high, and he's wide open, that's the one you've got to hit. So he's not hitting them. So. He's got to be more consistent, I think, across the board. And that's the Jaguars. They've got to be more consistent.
Gotcha.
But I think that also, when you look at the team as a whole, I don't blame it all on Minshew. That defense can't stop a nosebleed. I mean, they can't. I mean, you look at that team. Everybody scores 30 points against them.
Right.
So they're
last. Which is very different from that 2017
right.
team.
I mean, they really. Before Miles Jack went out, they were playing a lot better, I'll say that, but they still were giving up the point.
Right.
But it's Todd Walsh. I mean, he's got to go at some point. I think, obviously, I believe this to be Doug Marone's last year. I don't know what will happen with Caldwell. I think he should go as well. But when you look at this record, it's not satisfactory right now. They've got 9 games to go in the season. They're off on their bye week. Obviously, they want to try and have some type of run. Could they? Yeah. Could they go 8-1? Obviously, yeah, they could. But it's the toughest part of their season that they have when you look at that schedule. So it's going to be really tough to get some wins. You've got Pittsburgh. You've got Chicago. You've got this. You've got some tough games in there that they've got. The Texans and you still got to play. So it's going to be tough for them. I root for them. I want them to do well, but I think obviously with those draft picks that they've amounted, they've got to accumulate some good players in here. I think they've got a good core solidly with young guys, and what they've done is they've gone young, and they've got picks, and hopefully they bring another wave of players in. They've adopted that New England system. I think that's what they've done. And when you look at New England, they've always accumulated a lot of picks. And when you accumulate a lot of picks, it increases your ratio of finding better players. You have 7 draft picks, right? And 2 of those players don't pan out. Now you've got 5. But if you have 12 players, 12 picks, 11 picks, and then 7 of those guys pan out, 8 of those guys pan out, and 2 of them, you've got a greater chance of more players to now 2 of those are those 11. Now you got 9. You still got more players than anybody else that are contributing to your team at 9. You know what I'm saying? When the other teams don't have 5, 4, because those draft picks don't pan out. So it's definitely a system that's going to take a while. It took New England a while to build it. but you got to find a solid foundation at quarterback, and possibly they could find it. Depending on the draft next year, they could find it, and possibly Fields or Lawrence. But it just depends on what happens and how those kids come in and take the lead.
Now let me ask you this question. We're gonna go from the Jags to the Kansas City Chiefs, who reigning Super Bowl champions. Do they have everything in place, in your opinion, to have a dynasty, to be a dynastic team moving forward?
Well, I think they do. I think they've got some great offensive weapons. When we talk about signing Le'Veon Bell and the young Edwards-Helaire running back, they have some very, very powerful weapons. I think they've got to get another receiver. Sammy Watkins. I think Sammy Watkins is, obviously he's been in and out of that lineup. He gets, he's injury prone. I think he's a solid guy, but with the other guy, what is it, Hubbard, I think it is, and Tyreek Hill, they're going to still need another guy at receiver. Hartman, that's what it's, Hartman. They're going to need another guy eventually, I think, to step in Sammy Watkins' place to replace him. But as far as the dynasty, I think it's going to be tough in that AFC. You've got Baltimore right down the road there. Then you're always going to have, Pittsburgh is definitely playing well with Ben Roethlisberger back. They were down today when I looked down. They're down 17-7, so I don't know how that's going. And then with Bill Belichick, it's always, you've got to count them in there. I don't know how things are going to work out with Cam. I expect Cam to play better. I think he will play better.
What about young Buffalo with Josh Allen and some of the weapons he got?
I think they will be solid. I think they'll be a good football team. I'm worried about that defense because they're up and down. They're not really consistent. I think Josh Allen kind of goes with that, that inconsistency as well because he's so young. But he's definitely getting better. Then you got, the Titans, to even say that really makes my skin crawl. But with Derrick Henry running the football, and you talk about, in the fall, in the winter months, trying to tackle that big, guy, it could definitely be tough. So you've always got to factor them in there. And, depending on how Romeo Cornell can win that locker room with the Texans, Deshaun Watson can get on fire and really be special. I think he's got the caliber to be an MVP guy. It was sad to see that they got rid of his, one of the best receivers in the league, one of his best weapons. But hopefully, he'll be able to get some weapons down there, and he'll have a good tough time down there.
I got you. Now we're going to transition to something that's a little bit more intimate from a player standpoint. We want to know, can you tell us something about a professional football player that the average fan may not know? Can you give us a little insight on something maybe that you've gone through, experiences that you've had?
Something that somebody might not know.
Pull back the curtain a little bit.
You never get your privacy, I guess. Everywhere I go,
I didn't think about that.
Everywhere you go, you have to be mindful of how you carry yourself, who's watching, because you never know who may see you or who's watching you. So that's always, puts you on high anxiety.
Okay.
It makes it tough to,
Can't really be yourself.
sometimes, if you got to be, obviously pick and choose where you go, because of just social things, some people do things that I can't socially be around, because that's just not what I want my image to be, even if I'm not partaking or doing those things, you know how things can, we've seen it even with Dak Prescott, we had the party and, during COVID and, we've seen Zeke and things that, even if you're just at a party and something else goes on inside the room, what are they going to say? They're going to say, they're not going to give a care about who these other people are. They're going to, see you.
Zero in on Damon Jones.
They're going to see you in the background. They're going to see that person in the background, and that's what the story is going to be. So you just got to be mindful of that, and that's definitely something. And a funny thing I guess people don't know is every Friday you have to weigh in.
Really?
In the NFL, yeah, you have to weigh in, and you have a weight range. They give it to you. Usually the coaches do, and you have to weigh in. And if you're not within that weight range, you get fined. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Per pound.
I thought I knew something about sports. I didn't know that, y'all.
Yeah, per pound. I think most teams have it. They definitely check it out. Some are more lenient. I played for Tom Coughlin, so there was no leniency there. If you were underweight, like DBs and wide receivers, like you can't be underweight. You can't be, it's either underweight or you have to be in that range.
So like a 5-pound window, something.
It's typically something like that. Mine was like 260. Well, he didn't care if I was lower. So my highest was he would allow would be 278.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I remember, and we talked about this story. He brought it up to me. We was hanging out a couple weeks back, and Leon Cersei, we were in Denver, and I think he weighed in over a pound overweight or something like that. It was a playoff game, and I think he gave up on pressure or something on third down. And Coughlin said something like it must have been that extra pound that gave up that pressure. And Leon heard him. And Leon made like a beeline straight for Coughlin. Like it was definitely about to be, it wasn't gonna be good for Coughlin, but guy stepped in and kept it from getting real ugly. But it gets like that. Because you get fined for it, and for a coach to say that in the heat of battle, we're in a dogfight, and it was definitely a funny thing.
I didn't know that. Now we got to transition. I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up with all of the civil unrest going on, with the protests, with LeBron's movement, the players boycotting. Do you feel like black athletes have an obligation to be a part of that, or do you feel like they shouldn't do it? They could, lend their hand in different ways. How do you feel that the black athlete should approach some of the issues going on in terms
I feel they should do with whatever's in their heart. I don't feel like they have an obligation to.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like whatever moves them to help, or show a change in different things, in the systemic racism and police reform, police injustices, the shootings. It definitely is a trying time in 2020. We've had a really rough year, 2020. Remember we talked about 2000. Remember in 2000, everybody thought the computers was going to take over, and everybody went and bought potted meat, crackers, and water, and thought 2000, the world. Remember thought the clock was going to be all messed up.
1999 for real.
2020 got us like that right now. So it's a tough time. I just hope that that the players do what's in their heart. I don't think they have an obligation to. I think that when you say that's an obligation, it already puts a tougher or more of a burden on them because so many kids look at them as role models, and that's a tough thing, because they are human, and you want them to really look up to their parents and people that in their communities to look up to, because the numbers are so hard to get to the NFL and the NBA.
Yeah.
And we talk about our community, a lot of kids really believe that. And when we talk about the numbers, and when I was coaching high school, and I tell my kids this, it's going to be about 50,000 college, players that are going to play football. It probably, obviously with the COVID stuff, it won't be as many. but they'll evaluate probably each team, NFL team will evaluate probably 3,000 guys as far as just drafting. They'll evaluate just throughout the season. Right now, they're evaluating those guys. The scouts are evaluating those guys, draft eligible guys. They're just looking at guys that possibly could come out. That probably will come out. They're looking at those guys right now. So when you look at that, and you say they're going to evaluate that many people, you know, and that's across the country. But when you talk about what they're going to bring to Indianapolis, the NFL Combine, they're only going to bring about 350. You know, maybe 400. When I think they talk about the HBCUs now, I think they added that number in there. But it's not going to be many more than that, because they're not going to draft that many. They're not even going to draft all the people that they bring to Indy. They don't draft all those guys.
Let me ask you about the HBCU and Deion taking the job at Jackson State. Do you ever envision where you see top-notch black athletes going back to the HBCUs in large numbers like
I
that?
think they will. I think they should. But I think it's going to be a gradual process, because when you look at the HBCUs, a lot of them don't have the TV contracts or the big shoe contracts or contracts of that nature. But once you see some of those players go there, you see the Deion Sanders and the players that go coach and get those opportunities, I think you'll see a transition. Now, I think that when you talk about HBCUs, they've got to obviously upgrade their facilities to compete with the Alabamas and the Floridas and the Florida States, because obviously if you want those top-notch players, they want to go to and have top-notch facilities. Obviously, that's always something that you've got to look at. You got to look at the stadium increases. It's definitely going to be, it's going to be about the money. You know what I mean? So, and it always comes down to the money, and that's the sad part, because when you see some of these kids playing Pop Warner and these youth sports, and you see some of the parents how they act and carry on, and I'm being for real, because you take out the love of the game for the kids. You know what I'm saying? Because that's when they develop the love of the game. Because once you get to high school now, at this point, because everybody feels that they're a D1 player.
They specialize.
They feel like I'm a D1 player and this and that, or I play corner, I play D-line, I play this, but you play what a coach tells you to play. You know what I mean? And that's really how it boils down to it. And these kids, a lot of them don't understand it, and what's the real sad part is the parents don't understand it. Every kid is not a D1 player. That's just a fact. I mean, it doesn't have to be a in-your-face thing or an aha moment or anything like that. But some kids just aren't D1. They don't meet the size. They don't meet the speed. They don't have the grades. Some of them just don't have the character. Because you look at some of how these kids act, and it's a shame, that when they get out of their parents' view or way, they act like adults. When they see other adults or adult figures, they act like it's disrespectful. And if you act that way, how could I allow you to come on my campus and trust you to do the right thing? And these kids don't understand that, and their parents don't understand that. You know what I'm saying? Because they feel like their kid is so special because of what they do on the field. But if you're a jerk, if you cuss out the teachers and you do all these things. These scouts come in, they don't just talk to the coaches, they go in those classrooms too and talk to those teachers. So if the teacher tells them you're a jerk, you think they're coming back to talk to you? You wonder why they start recruiting you, or they look on these social medias and you throwing up the middle finger like it's the only middle finger was given out. Like, for what? That's how your image is everything. And in old age for me, that's really, I wish one thing I would have focused on a lot more when I was a lot younger is the image, is making sure that, you do always be on your P's and Q's. I had some, missteps, but I learned from them, you know what I mean? And I think some of these kids don't learn from them. They don't have the consequences that we had, or I had growing up. my thing when I was coaching is, I take them out the game. I take that playing time. I don't mind taking that playing. Come on over here.
So I think that's a great segue. And in closing, appreciate you, but I want you to look out there and tell the people, tell the kids in particular who are aspiring to one day sit here and be in your shoes and play in professional football. What do they need to do in order to get to where you're at right now and the seat that you're in right now? What do they need to do if I'm a 13, 14, 15-year-old aspiring to be a professional football player?
First thing you need to do is make sure your grades are right. If you haven't registered for the NCAA clearinghouse, make sure you get registered on there if you're playing any sports. That's the first thing you need to do because you can't play until you get cleared there. And that's based on your grades and your academics. Obviously, the test scores, I think they're excluding them this year. So that's a big plus for the guys. So I would say just get your GPA up as high as you can and try and get to any college that you can play football at. And every kid is not going to go D1, but if you get an opportunity to play football, I would say go be the best you can be there. Be the best player you can be there, and if you can be the best there, the NFL will find you. And then when you get an opportunity, if you do get an opportunity, just be ready. Be ready, and don't let naysayers, I guess, hold you back. I mean, always have a purpose. Continue to fight for it. It's going to be tough. It's not going to come easy. Nobody's going to hand you anything.
Right.
You're going to get knocked down. And some people are probably going to tell you no. But if you really want to see it through, it's going to be a long road, and the reward is great.
All right, so Damon Jones, Tony's Tangent, we appreciate him coming, spending this time with us. Again, we're at 1827 North Pearl Street, the cookbook.
Yeah, I got to get some of this food, man.
Yeah, so we'll holler at y'all later, and as always, stay black.
Peace.